So here's a picture of the ugly Duchess, possibly Margaret, Countess of Tyrol. Margaret, Countess of Tyrol, she had died on October 3rd, 1369. October 3rd, 1369 in Vienna, Austria. And she was the last Countess of Tyrol from the House of Gorizia and an unsuccessful claimant to the Duchy of Carinthia. Upon her death, Tyrol became united with the Austrian hereditary lands of the Habsburg dynasty. So the Duchess, this is a Duchess drawing from Alice in Wonderland. And so Alice in Wonderland, the ugly Duchess. This is named after the Margaret, Countess of Tyrol. Now there is some story that says that the Duchess, the ugly Duchess, she was actually unfairly maligned due to she had divorced her husband and then remarried without getting an annulment from the church. And so they had called her a whole bunch of terrible names like pouch mouth. They said that bag mouth, whore, vicious woman. She was known as Kriemhild, Medusa, mouth poke, pocket mouth, satchel mouth, the big mouth, the mouth bag, the pocket mouth, the she-wolf of Tyrol, the ugly Duchess, and with the pouch mouth. Pouch mouth. That's hard to say. But they're saying she was not attractive. Okay, she was not an attractive woman. And so this was an artist rendering 150 years later after her death. And she actually died young, didn't she? She only died when she was, 50 something, 51. But that's young for today's standards. Somebody else had died. So there was a lot of kings and queens who had died and on October 3rd. So the ugly Duchess, the last Countess of Tyrol, she had died. There was, let's see here, this Eleanor de Bohun. Eleanor de Bohun, she had died October 3rd, 1399. She was only 32 or 33 years of age. Eleanor de Bohun was the elder daughter and co-heiress with her sister Mary de Bohun of Humphrey de Bohun, the 7th Earl of Hereford, and Joan Fitzalan, a daughter of Richard Fitzalan, 10th Earl of Arundel, and his second wife Eleanor of Lancaster. So this is Eleanor de Bohun. She also died October 3rd. This was 1399. Then you had, let's see here. This is a sad story. More sad than the other ones because this Dafydd ap Gruffydd, this Prince Dafydd ap Gruffydd was a prince of Wales, and he was fighting against the oppression of the King of England, King Edward I. And King Edward I actually killed this prince in like one of the most horrific ways possible. So not only Edward I was known as the king that fought against I don't know if it was William Wallace, but it was definitely Robert the Bruce. So he was, quashing the Scottish independence movement. He was also quashing the independence movement of Wales. So it's kind of remarkable that you had this guy that was a prince who was, fighting for Wales. I don't know. That seems crazy to me. It's like, I will never be an English person. I am a Walesian. And so here's a little. So let's see. King Edward ensured that Dafydd's death. This is Prince Dafydd ap Gruffydd. So Dafydd's death was slow and agonizing. It was also historic because Prince Dafydd was the first prominent person in recorded history to have been hanged, drawn, and quartered, preceded by a number of minor knights. Earlier in the 13th century, Dafydd was dragged through the streets of Shrewsbury, attached to a horse's tail, and then Prince Dafydd was hanged alive. He was revived, and then he was disemboweled, and his entrails were burned before him for his sacrilege in committing his crimes in the week of Christ's Passion, which is kind of incredible because they're essentially crucifying him. You know, they're crucifying the fuck out of this Prince Dafydd. And then his body was cut into 4 quarters for plotting the king's death. Geoffrey of Shrewsbury was paid 20 shillings for carrying out the gruesome act on October 3rd, 1283. So 12 shillings, wasn't it only like 10 pieces of silver? That's what you had. Judas sold Jesus out for only a few pieces of silver. And so that's Dafydd. Now, it's interesting also, William Wallace got killed sort of similarly. I mean, he was beheaded and had his entrails cut out, and then he's going to shout freedom to the dying King Edward's face. King Edward was, dying, and then he said, freedom! That's what the movie said. And so Prince Dafydd would be like the William Wallace of Wales, or the Robert the Bruce of Wales. Now, I took a look at Edward I, the way that Edward I is going to die. He's going to die in February 1307. Bruce resumed his efforts, started gathering men, and in May he defeated Valence at the Battle of Loudoun Hill. Edward, who had rallied somewhat, now moved north himself. He developed dysentery on the way. His condition deteriorated. On July 6th, he encamped at Berg by Sands, just south of the Scottish border. When his servants came the next morning to lift him up so he could eat, the king died in his arms. So how did Edward I die? Of dysentery, which means he was just shitting himself until he dehydrated. He just kept shitting himself. Dysentery is a motherfucker. So, that's no matter how powerful rich people think they are, the end comes to us all. And since the end comes to us all, there's always, if you're a bad person and nobody ever steps to you or stands up to you, eventually you get it anyways. But Robert the Bruce actually led to his downfall because he's going to catch dysentery when he was trying to quash the independence movement of Scotland. One of my favorite movies is Mary, Queen of Scots. Mary, Queen of Scots is just a fucking badass. Her child's going to become King James I. Just a great fucking movie. I am your queen. So, yeah, Mary, Queen of Scots, huh? So, death becomes us all. Edward I thought he was all high and mighty, and then he just crapped himself. He just crapped himself to death. So what he did to Prince Dafydd ap Gruffydd was pretty gruesome. And Dafydd he was killed on October 3rd, 1283. So